So let's jump right in. We're tackling a huge question today. What's the most important information you actually need to navigate life? We've pulled together ideas from psychology, game theory, you name it, to build a kind of practical guide for your journey. And that journey, well, it begins right now. You know, every great story, and that includes your own, is really a hero's journey. It's a path of growth, of discovery, and yeah, of overcoming some pretty big obstacles. But here's the thing. Each challenge isn't just a setback, it's preparation. It's how you learn about your own unique skills and figure out how you can make a real difference in the world. So if life is this epic journey, you can think of this explainer as your map. It's designed to give you the key tools, the essential knowledge to really understand your own inner world, to connect with other people, and to face those challenges that you know are waiting just up ahead. And our journey has to begin inward, right? Before we can even think about navigating the outside world, we first have to understand the territory of our own minds, all our biases, our weird patterns of thought, and that voice that's constantly talking in our heads. Okay, so a huge part of that inner world comes down to these things called cognitive biases. And what's so fascinating is that they aren't, character flaws or anything. They're just unconscious mental shortcuts our brains take. And just being aware of them, that's the first absolutely crucial step toward thinking more clearly. Let's make this super real for a second. Have you ever been talking to someone and just knew what they were really thinking? That's mind reading. Or maybe you have a big presentation coming up, and you're just convinced it's going to be a total disaster. That's fortune telling. And all or none thinking, that's that nasty trap of, if I'm not perfect, I'm a complete failure. Just recognizing these patterns is like flipping a light switch on in a dark room. This right here shows how a tiny little shift in our thinking can have a massive impact. I mean, what if we just moved from a world of good people and bad people to a world where there are good people who sometimes make not so good choices? It sounds small, but it's not. It completely replaces harsh judgment with compassion and understanding, both for other people and maybe even more importantly for ourselves. So, this brings up a really critical question, one we all need to ask ourselves. Seriously. Think about that voice in your head for a moment. Is it a supportive coach or is it a harsh critic? I mean, the way we talk to ourselves, it shapes our reality, our confidence, our resilience, more than almost anything else. So if you find that your inner critic is just a little too loud, here's a really powerful exercise you can do. A personal gratitude list isn't just about feeling good for a moment. It's an active tool to shift your thinking. Just take a few minutes. List things you appreciate about yourself. Your ability to walk, your weird sense of humor, your love for music, whatever. It literally starts to rewire your brain to focus on your inherent worth. Okay, so now that we've got a better map of our own inner world, it's time to venture out. We're going to see how all this self-awareness really shapes how we interact with others. Because, let's be real, the hero's journey is never a solo mission. Think about the last time you met someone new. I'll bet money this question came up. So what do? The problem is, it's a total conversational dead end. We're all so used to it that we just give these boring, rehearsed answers that say almost nothing about who we really are. It stops any real connection before it can even start. So instead, try one of these. These questions are basically open-ended invitations. They ask about passions, stories, highlights. They completely skip the resume and go straight to the actual person, sparking conversations that are way more meaningful and honestly, way more memorable. Now, in our interactions, whether we realize it or not, we're often making strategic moves, threats, promises, commitments, and game theory gives us this really powerful way to understand it all. And it boils down to this: credibility is everything. A promise or a threat is totally useless if nobody believes you'll actually act on it. You have to change the game itself so that following through becomes your most rational choice. This is such a classic example. Back when Airbus was thinking about building a new kind of jet, Boeing made this huge, very public commitment to building their own. The message was crystal clear, and more importantly, it was credible. They'd altered the game by investing so much money up front that it was now in their best interest to see it through, even if it meant losses for both companies. And Airbus, believing them, stayed out. That, right there, is credibility in action. And when we move from one-on-one interactions into groups, a whole new danger pops up. Groupthink. It's that powerful, often unspoken pressure to just agree with what everyone else thinks. And this completely suppresses the dissenting views and the constructive conflict that actually lead to the best decisions. It's why the smartest group is almost always the one that makes it feel safe to disagree. And now, we've arrived at the most challenging part of the journey. In the classic hero story, this is the moment you approach the innermost cave, the place that holds your deepest fears. So this section is all about confronting our dragons: fear, stress, trauma, and failure. You hear the word trauma thrown around a lot, but it's really important to understand what it actually means. It's not just about a single, big, dramatic event. It can also be the result of long-term, complex stress from things like poverty or neglect. At its core, it's an experience that overwhelms our ability to cope. The science behind this is pretty mind-blowing. See, trauma isn't a failure of character. It's a function of the brain. When an experience is just too overwhelming, the brain literally can't file it away as a past memory. Instead, it gets stuck, like a glitch, and it stays a current thread. That's what leads to things like hypervigilance, where your body is on constant high alert. So how do we calm a nervous system that's stuck on high alert? Honestly, our breath is one of the most powerful tools we have. This 3-part breath is a simple but incredibly profound way to manually trigger your body's relaxation response. Let's just try it real quick. Breathe deep into your belly, then up into your chest, and then a long, slow exhale out. It's like an immediate anchor in moments of stress. Okay, the final dragon we have to face is the fear of failure. But we have to reframe what failure even is. See, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's a necessary ingredient. Every single time you fail, it means you are willing to take a risk. And without taking risks, innovation, creativity, growth, they're just not possible. You see, after we face our dragons, we don't just go back to where we started. We're transformed. And this final section is all about the rewards of that journey. New mindsets, peak experiences, and really profound personal growth. One of the absolute best rewards is experiencing what's called flow. This is that magic state where you're so completely absorbed in what you're doing that time just seems to disappear. You're totally focused, you're energized, and you're actually enjoying the process. And the key isn't to find an easy task. No, it's to find that perfect balance where the challenge of what you're doing just perfectly meets your skill level. That's the sweet spot for peak performance and deep satisfaction. This right here, this visual captures the most profound transformation of all. It's the idea of post-traumatic growth. It's the journey of moving from a victim mentality, where you feel like life just happens to you, to a changemaker mentality. It's that empowered realization that you have the agency, you have the capacity to create meaningful change, not in spite of what you've been through, but because of it. So, we've given you a map with some key landmarks: self-awareness, genuine connection, resilience, the whole path to growth. But a map is just a guide. The journey is yours, and believe me, it's just beginning. The only real question left is, where will you go next?